The story opens with Kwok Pil Hyup, a 57-year-old man recently released after serving time for first-degree murder. After years of hardship behind bars, his luck suddenly changed. He won $293,875,000. For the first time in his life, he felt pure joy. His face lit up with disbelief and happiness. But within just 3 hours, every last cent was gone. Now, Pil Hyup stands on the edge of a casino rooftop, a cigarette between his fingers, tears streaking down his face. He mutters curses to himself, his voice breaking until a man in a suit appears behind him. The stranger speaks calmly, saying Pil Hyup must be wishing he had quit while he was ahead. He calls him by name and reminds him of his wretched life, a man so estranged from his famous daughter that she has a restraining order against him, and so terrified of loan sharks that even death feels out of reach. The suited man told him he would give him enough money to completely change his life. He handed over a small money bag. Inside, it was an unbelievable amount of cash. The stranger explained that Pil Hyup could take out 1,000,000 won every second, but warned that he had been doing so non-stop for the past 3 hours. He added that every time Pil Hyup withdrew money, something related to him decreased. Yet, Pil Hyup ignored the warning. Seeing the enormous sum, he lost his mind in excitement, laughing and jumping in madness. He screamed inside his head that he had made over 10 billion won in just 3 hours, and could finally enter the VIP room where his life would turn around. As time passed, his body began to change. The more money he pulled from the bag, the lighter he became. His body started to lose mass rapidly, yet he remained blind to it. He continued jumping in joy, unaware that his flesh was disappearing and his bones were showing through his skin. The man in the suit sighed as he watched Pil Hyup's foolish excitement. Even as his body shriveled to a skeletal form, Pil Hyup proudly thought to himself that he was still making 1,000,000 won every second and was destined for greatness. Soon, he began coughing violently. His body had become thinner than a stick, and he collapsed among piles of money, barely alive. The suited man looked down at him with calm curiosity, commenting on his condition. He wondered aloud why Pil Hyup had kept taking money out until his weight had reached a life-threatening level. If he had only looked in the mirror once, he would have seen that his body weight decreased by the exact amount of money he withdrew. Smiling faintly, the man turned away, surrounded by the fluttering bills. Kwok Pil Hyup, despite being surrounded by wealth, died, buried beneath the very mountain of money he had craved. As the suited man walked away, he glanced at the cursed wallet and laughed softly, wondering who he should give it to next, and what that person would lose. The scene then shifted to a young boy named Cheon Gyumbo, 9 years old, standing as the chief mourner at his parents' funeral. He wept bitterly, yet spoke with determination to his older sister, Cheon Eunhwa, who was 17. He promised that he would grow up, go to Seoul National University, and make her live a good life. He reminded her that when their names were put together, they meant gold, silver, and treasure names their parents had given them, so they would grow up to be precious people in the world. He swore he would succeed and make her rich. Eunhwa, though crying, smiled and hugged her younger brother tightly. She thanked him, saying he was speaking the words she should have said instead. She admired her kind brother and wondered what kind of wonderful man he would grow up to be. But as years passed, contrary to her expectations, Gyumbo changed harshly. At 17, he looked nothing like the boy he once was. His body grew large, resembling a hippopotamus. All he did was eat and sleep. At school, 2 bullies named Jun and Jin tormented him cruelly. They stuffed a basketball on one side of his chest and a football on the other, making him dress and pose like a girl. His awkward appearance made him look like a clown. The bullies laughed uncontrollably, calling him a fat ghost as they snapped pictures of his humiliation. Inside his mind, Gyumbo cursed them furiously. He called them scum and perverts who enjoyed tormenting others and swore he would never forgive them. Just then, his crush, a girl named Shin-ae, appeared. Angrily, she confronted Jun for borrowing her pouch, demanding he return it and stop bullying people. Jun laughed mockingly, holding her pouch high, daring her to take it back. Gyumbo watched in silent awe, his heart pounding. He thought about how Shin-ae had come to save him again, admiring her beauty and kind heart. When Jun patted her head, Gyumbo's anger boiled inside. He thought about how dare that bastard touch her like that, but decided to let it slide for now. He swore that one day he would prove himself. He cursed Jun and Jin in his thoughts, calling them trash. He promised himself that while they would be stuck working in dirty uniforms, he would be walking beneath cherry blossoms with Shin-ae on a university campus. He imagined Shin-ae introducing him to her family, and in his fantasy, even his sister would fall for him at first sight. 8 years passed. Gyumbo, now 25, worked as a simple production worker. During his break, he sipped coffee and smoked while scrolling through Shine's Instagram. He saw pictures of her traveling with June to Bali, staying in a private villa filled with romantic settings, his eyes filled with anger and sorrow. He thought bitterly about how she was traveling abroad with another man. He had suspected she might have a boyfriend but refused to believe it. Now it was clear, and it was young June of all people. His heart ached as he thought about how deeply he had loved her. Just then, his phone buzzed with a message from his sister, Eunhwa. She asked if he wanted to eat chicken tonight. He replied, asking what the occasion was, and she happily texted back that she had been promoted to supervisor. He congratulated her warmly. But his small moment of peace was shattered when his factory boss hit him hard on the back of his head, yelling that break time had ended ages ago and scolding him for staring at his phone. Gyumbo quietly followed, his mind still lost in thoughts. He tried to comfort himself, thinking that even if he wasn't good at dating, life would get better. His sister's promotion made him feel hopeful. If he kept working hard, raised his salary, and stayed healthy, maybe one day he could travel abroad and live like everyone else. He believed sunny days would eventually come, but a few days later, his world collapsed. His sister suddenly fell ill, and he rushed her to the hospital. The doctor's words struck him like lightning. Eunhwa had blood cancer, leukemia. The doctor explained that they would determine the exact type after tests, but for now, she had to be hospitalized. Tears streamed down Jumbo's face as he tried to process it. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. He had only brought her because she fainted from heatstroke, and now they were talking about cancer. The world, he thought, was not just unfair, it was cruel. His sister had just been promoted, and she had been so happy. Now she lay in pain, pitiful and broken. Standing outside her hospital room, Gyumbo realized the truth of life. No matter how hard one tried, those who weren't meant to succeed never would. The hopeful future people dreamed of was a privilege only the lucky possessed from the start. He felt that he and his sister were born without even that kind of luck. Instead of struggling, he thought, he should have lived doing whatever he wanted. He went to visit Eunhwa in her hospital room. She greeted him weakly, apologizing for the expensive bills. Gyumbo wept, telling her there was no need to apologize and feeling even sorrier himself. Inside, he thought that if he had known she would get such a terminal illness, he would have let her live freely and do everything she desired with the money he earned. Later, on his way home by subway, life reminded him again of his position. A police officer hit him with a baton, pushing him aside to take a seat. Gyumbo sat in the crowded subway, barely finding space on a small seat. To distract himself from the pain and depression, he opened his phone and scrolled through social media. His account showed 0 followers and 0 following, yet his search list was filled with the IDs of old classmates from middle and high school. He often found their profiles while browsing, but never had the courage to follow them, choosing instead to look silently from afar. He saw photos of his classmates who had once failed college entrance exams, but were now studying abroad with their parents' money. Some flaunted their beautiful girlfriends, celebrating success after passing civil service exams and traveling across Europe before even getting appointed. Others were taking over their family businesses and being called bosses in their 20s. He saw people driving foreign cars, getting married, and living in newlywed homes gifted by their parents. Photos of babies, family dinners, vacations abroad, luxury hotels, omakase restaurants, and branded goods filled the screen. Every image reflected a luxurious lifestyle that he and his sister could never have. While scrolling, his eyes stopped at a photo of a woman known online as Princess Kwon Changwi. Her beauty glowed under the sun as she posed in a bikini on a sea beach, showing off her curvy figure. He stared at the image, thinking how distant and unreachable that kind of life was for him. Zooming in on her photo, he watched like a pervert, unaware that a woman nearby had noticed him and left with disgust. Trying to share his amusement, he showed the sexy photo to the old police officer sitting next to him. The officer looked at it too, entertained and unbothered, revealing his own hidden indulgence. But as the screen went dark, reality struck Gyumbo again. He realized he had opened social media to forget his depression, but had ended up facing the harsh truth of his miserable life even more directly. He knew he could never live an ordinary, peaceful life like others. His mental state began to crumble as he grabbed his head in frustration. After reaching home, he sat alone, drinking heavily and eating snacks. He mumbled to himself while scrolling through information about his sister's illness, realizing that blood cancer was a high-cost disease requiring expensive treatment. A bone marrow transplant alone would cost tens of millions of won. Most of their salaries had gone toward paying off their late parents' loan shark debts, leaving them with no savings. His sister's hospitalization meant she couldn't work, and he would now have to cover all the hospital bills, daily expenses, and rent interest with only his meager salary. Tears fell from his eyes as he muttered that there seemed to be no choice but to die. The insurance his sister had taken in his name had been active for over 2 years, meaning the insurance money would be paid even if he died. He cursed his foolish sister for buying the policy for him instead of herself. He knew her selfless nature would stop her from receiving proper treatment because of the medical expenses, so he decided he would die instead, so she could at least get treatment without worrying about money. As he continued to drink, a voice suddenly echoed in front of him, asking if he had the courage to die. Shocked, Guillaume dropped his beer and looked up at the stranger who stood before him. The stranger's calm tone carried weight as he spoke about how wasteful it was to simply live and die meaninglessly, suggesting that there were surely many things Guillaume still wanted to do. Guillaume adjusted his glasses, nervously asking who the man was. The stranger smiled confidently and addressed him by name, saying that he appeared only before those who desperately needed money. He told him he would now give him enough money to completely change his life. Guillaume froze in disbelief, wondering who this person was and why he would give him money. More importantly, he questioned how this stranger had entered his locked home. He thought perhaps he had been too distracted and forgot to lock the door, but then remembered doing it for sure. The man didn't look suspicious at all. His neatly styled hair looked like it was managed at an expensive salon. His perfectly tailored suit fit his body type flawlessly, and his clear skin and confident expression gave him the aura of a wealthy man. Guillaume wondered if this was some rich man doing charity for fun. The thought of being exploited angered him. He assumed it must be for a YouTube video, one of those poverty porn contents where rich people acted superior while handing out a few pennies to the poor for views. He yelled in frustration, accusing the man of trying to buy his family's suffering for pocket change. He shouted, asking if the man could give him 1 billion won, or even 10 billion won if he asked for it. His anger boiled over as he struck the stranger, but the man only smiled calmly and said that he could indeed give that much. Placing his hand on Guillaume's shoulder, he leaned closer with a sly smile, saying that even 1 or 10 billion wouldn't be enough. He reminded Guillaume that with money, he could save his sick sister and do everything he had postponed, all the things he had put off until someday or later. However, he said that there would be conditions, depending entirely on Guillaume's mindset. Confused, Guillaume repeated the word mindset, wondering what he meant. He thought back to all the years he had lived, believing in false hope, imagining himself walking on a university campus with Shin-A under blooming cherry blossoms. He realized that his optimistic thinking had been meaningless. Acknowledging his mistake, Guillaume said he had been living with the wrong mindset, trapped in a loop of blind optimism that promised better days which never came. He brushed the man's hand off his shoulder and said that not knowing the truth about that mindset had led him here. With the right mindset, he said, there was nothing one couldn't earn, whether 1 billion or 10 billion. That, he assumed, was the stranger's message. He broke down in tears, shouting that the man was blaming him for being poor. He cried that he too once believed that if he worked hard, he would live well someday. But reality was cruel. Some people were simply born into wealth, inheriting billions the moment they left the womb, becoming business heirs in Gangnam without reading a single book. Money allowed them to pass exams, cheat systems, and study abroad without effort. He ranted that there was nothing wrong with not going to college, but society rewarded only those born lucky. At 20, the rich drove foreign cars, dated freely, and were given businesses by their parents, earning titles like boss. For the poor, survival itself required beauty or talent becoming celebrities, streamers, or marrying into wealth just to climb the social ladder. In this world, mindset and effort were useless. Life was determined purely by luck the moment one was born. Exhausted, Guillaume sank to the floor, crying uncontrollably. The stranger watched him silently, his hand in his pocket, maintaining his composed demeanor. With a sly smirk, he told Guillaume to think of meeting him as the greatest fortune of his lifetime. Leaning closer, he said that all Guillaume needed was the mindset to bet his life on this opportunity. He promised money that could change his future completely, and so, at the edge of despair, with nowhere left to turn and no hope remaining, Chon Gumbo met the one known as the King of Money. Guillaume froze, stunned by the thought that his future could change and that money might save his sick sister and allow him to do everything he wanted. Guillaume asked the King of Money about limits, wondering if unlimited money would be offered. The King of Money acknowledged Guillaume's sharpness and confirmed that unlimited money was unnecessary to change a life. The king then introduced the object to Guillaume while handing over a money bag, explaining that the little creature was called the wallet beast. The king explained that the amount Mr. Cheon Gumbo could take from the wallet beast at once was 1 million won. Gumbo reacted in shock at the notion of 1 million won, unable to believe it. The king of money explained that every second, 1 million won could be taken from the wallet beast from the moment Mr. Cheon Gumbo owned it. He explained that the wallet beast's limit would increase by 1 million won every second. After 10 seconds, the limit would be 10 million won. After 1 minute, the limit would reach 60 million won. To prove it, the king pulled money from the bag, filling the entire house with cash. The king of money asked what the wallet beast's limit would be after 24 hours had passed. Seeing so much money left, Gyumbo utterly shocked. The king teased Gyumbo for being slow at mental math and suggested that Gyumbo would be satisfied with that limit. He emphasized that, most importantly, the money taken from the wallet beast had no tax issues and would not trigger investigations into the source of funds for purchases. He challenged belief, saying that if Gyumbo could not trust what he saw with his own eyes, nothing more could be done. The king produced even more money from the bag. Gyumbo then asked about the condition the king had mentioned earlier, reminding him that there was a condition. The king confirmed that nothing in the world is free, and explained the rule clearly. He said that anytime, anywhere, as much as desired, money could be taken from the wallet beast, but the amount taken would cause something related to Mr. Cheon Gumbo to decrease. Gyumbo pressed for clarification about what something meant. The king countered with a taunting suggestion to try withdrawing hundreds of billions, implying danger and irresponsibility. The king then outlined 3 cases in which money could no longer be taken from the wallet beast. First, when something related to Mr. Cheon Gumbo kept decreasing and eventually disappeared completely. Second, when no money is taken from the wallet beast for 30 days, and the wallet beast's reason for existence vanishes. Third, in the event of transfer, abandonment, death, or any complete relinquishment of ownership of the wallet beast. The king declared the choice simple and urged decision time. He stated that the moment Gumbo owned the wallet beast, he would gain the opportunity to obtain enormous wealth. In exchange, something related to Mr. Cheon Gumbo would be lost. Finally, the king questioned, with quiet curiosity, whether Mr. Cheon Gumbo could truly become happy even after such an exchange. Gyumbo thought to himself that whether he died and left his sister the life insurance money, or died because his lifespan decreased each time he spent money, it would be the same either way. There was absolutely no reason to refuse. Desperation filled his heart as he realized he needed money. He reached out and took the money bag from the king of money's hand. A blinding light flashed, and in an instant, the king of money vanished without a trace. Gumbo fell to the floor, his body trembling as he clutched the mysterious bag. Holding the bag tightly, he stared at it in disbelief, thinking it was impossible and that it had to be a lie. When he opened the wallet and looked inside, it appeared completely empty. But when he imagined a specific amount and reached his hand inside, that exact number of bundles of money appeared. He was stunned as piles of cash poured out even when he turned the wallet upside down. Within seconds, he had instantly received 65 million won. A chill ran down his spine as he stared at the fortune, wondering how much of his life had decreased for 65 million won. Deep down, he already knew the answer. It had been obvious all along. The fact that the mysterious man appeared the very moment he decided to die had been the hint. The king of money gave him money equal to the life he was about to throw away. It became clear that his life would decrease as much as he spent money. He laughed bitterly, realizing that it didn't matter anymore. He was just a mortal, living a fleeting moment. With this wallet, he decided he would save his sister and do everything he wanted before he died. Emotion welled up in his chest as he stared at the bag with mixed feelings of hope and fear. While inspecting the bag, he noticed 2 small dots on it and wondered what those dot-like stains were, thinking something might have gotten on it while taking out money. But then he realized those dots were eyes slowly opening and closing. The bag was alive. Terror filled him as he screamed and threw it away, horrified by what he had just witnessed. The next day arrived. Gyumbo went to his part-time job, carrying the mysterious money bag with him. He placed it nearby and spoke softly, commenting that it didn't look like it wanted to drink water and that it had been starving since yesterday. He apologized to it, calling it Wallet-chan, and said he felt bad leaving it alone at home. He decided that at least during his lunch break, it should get some fresh air outside. Behind him, his boss suddenly spoke, asking if he was lonely. Startled, Gumbo turned quickly. His boss, irritated, shouted that Gumbo had finally lost it. The crazy man was now talking to a coin purse. Gumbo panicked, stuttering that it wasn't a coin purse and that his boss couldn't see the cute, bright eyes. But to his boss, there were no eyes, only a simple bag. Frustration twisted his boss's expression as he muttered that he must not have beaten Gyumbo enough. Rage filled his voice as he threatened to beat him until he came to his senses. The blows came hard, the boss shouting repeatedly for him to wake up, yelling that if he had nothing to do, he should go buy cigarettes. The pain brought back old memories, times when his boss had beaten him without reason, when he had been humiliated for eating too much or simply existing. The memories burned inside him, and his anger rose. As his boss swung again, Gyumbo moved instinctively, dodging the attack. The boss glared, surprised that Gyumbo had dared to avoid the hit. But before he could react further, Gyumbo slapped him across the face with all his strength. The sharp sound echoed through the workplace. Everyone around them froze, shocked by what they had just seen. Gyumbo stood firm, his face calm yet burning with years of pent-up frustration. He declared that he had been waiting for this day. He pulled a folded paper from his pocket and wrote on it, explaining that he had been carrying it for no reason until now, but finally, he had a purpose. The words written on the paper were clear: countersue for workplace harassment and resignation letter. He threw the letter straight at his boss's face. The man stood speechless, his eyes wide, mumbling in disbelief. Gyumbo smirked and walked away with confidence. His boss stuttered, asking if he had really won first place, but Gyumbo didn't look back. As he walked out of the workplace, he thought proudly that starting today, he was unemployed. It was what he had hoped and wished for all this time. Now, he would enjoy the life of a rich, unemployed man. Later, Gyumbo found himself stepping into a luxurious 5-star hotel for the first time in his life. Around him, gold-digging women chatted and laughed over fancy meals, gossiping and glittering clothes. Sitting among them, Gyumbo looked around with a satisfied smile. It was his first time entering a place like this, and today, in that shining hall of wealth and luxury, he smiled as if he had finally entered a new world. Gyumbo had gone to a 5-star hotel and brought a large amount of costly and delicious food, all for his sick sister who was admitted to the hospital. When his sister, Manhwa, saw the food, she was shocked, staring in disbelief at the luxurious spread before her. She could not understand what all this was. Gyumbo told her that he had heard she needed to eat well during chemotherapy. Since she liked sushi, he had bought some. He explained that when he went to the store, the young women there were eating it so deliciously that he could not resist. He urged her to eat it quickly while it was still fresh. Manhwa looked at the food with wide eyes, realizing it looked very expensive. She questioned where he had gotten the money, estimating that the food clearly cost over 30,000 won. Gyumbo thought to himself that 30,000 won was far too low. The hotel sushi actually cost 50 times more than that. He knew his sister had no idea since she had only ever eaten discount mart sushi her whole life. Manhwa continued, saying that he should be at work right now. She asked if he had skipped work and noticed his glasses looked strange. Gyumbo whispered that if she acted recklessly, how could he rest easy in the hospital? He quickly denied skipping work and told her he had actually won first place in the lottery. Manhwa, shocked, asked if it was true. Gyumbo assured her it was, showing his phone where a message displayed that he had won first place. He explained that he had taken sick leave and had just returned from collecting the prize money. A patient sitting nearby choked on her juice in shock after overhearing them. Manhwa stared at the screen, astonished, repeating in disbelief that he had really won first place. She began counting in amazement: 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, 10 million, 100 million, and then screamed in disbelief that it was billions. She could not believe it, thinking that when God gives, he gives in abundance. Meanwhile, Gyumbo knew the truth. It was a fake lottery app called Experience Lotto First Place. He was relieved that his sister had been easily fooled. He told her that since things were like this, they should eat first and think of it as a small celebration party. Manhwa started crying softly, sobbing like a child, and admitted that she had been so scared. She was terrified of being sick, afraid of the chemotherapy side effects, and even more frightened about what would happen to Gyumbo if she died first and left him alone. But what truly terrified her was hearing how expensive leukemia treatment could be. She worried she might be blocking her brother's future, fearing they would have to use the savings he had worked hard to build for his own future just to pay hospital bills. She felt relieved that would not be necessary now. Gyumbo looked at her with emotion, thinking how impossible his sister was, still worrying about him first even in this condition. He drank his water and told her to stop crying and eat. Manhwa nodded but admitted she could not eat raw food because of chemotherapy. In the end, she shared the expensive food with the other patients in the same hospital room. The others thanked her sincerely, happy to enjoy luxurious food because of her. Soon after, a doctor entered the room and informed Eunhwa that her request for a private room had been approved. Everything was ready, and she could move in now. When Eunhwa saw the private room, she was completely shocked. The room was so clean and grand that she wondered if it was really part of a hospital or a hotel. Gumbo smiled and told her that from now on, she would receive treatment there. Eunhwa looked at him angrily, surprised by the extravagance. But Gumbo calmly explained that since her white blood cell count was low, she was vulnerable to infection, so it was safer for her to stay in a VIP room away from others. When she pointed out that her previous ward was already sterile, he quickly said he needed to go buy glasses and left, waving goodbye. Eunhwa stood there, still shocked by everything. After leaving the hospital, Gyeombo went to the Gucci store. As soon as he entered, he saw someone he never wanted to see again, Jin Il-sok, the same bully who used to torment him during school days. Jin worked there now. He looked at Gyeombo with a mocking smile, calling him by his old nickname, and laughing that he had not changed at all since their school days. Gyeombo froze in disbelief, recognizing him immediately, his mind filled with anger and frustration. That bastard. Jin Il-sok, the same guy who used to be obsessed with Gucci back then, was now actually working at a Gucci store. He could not believe fate was playing such cruel jokes on him. Jin continued to mock him, asking what he was doing at a department store and sarcastically telling him to go upstairs if he wanted to use the bathroom. Gyeombo tried to explain that he was there to buy glasses and clothes, saying he had heard the place was expensive. Jin burst into loud laughter, mocking that it was not somewhere a person like him could afford. A junior worker nearby tried to stop him, saying that he was going too far. Jin glared and told the junior to shut up and do his job properly. He then bragged that Gyeombo used to be his lackey in high school and laughed, saying he was the famous beggar of their school. Gyeombo quietly said that he did have money. Jin smirked at him. Then he dressed Gyeombo in a full Gucci outfit, laughing as he adjusted his clothes, saying it suited him perfectly. Another senior worker was helping fix Gyeombo's pants when Jin scolded him for blocking the camera. He wanted to take pictures. As he clicked photos, Jin continued to mock, saying that Gyeombo looked classy, dressed in Gucci from head to toe. He bragged about his own styling skills, saying that Gyeombo could just wear it and pay later. Inside, Jin was secretly plotting. He thought there were new luxury products he wanted to buy, and this was the perfect chance. He grinned to himself, planning to milk this situation for all it was worth. In his mind, he laughed that Cheon Fatty looked awesome, and he would drain him completely while earning some sales incentive for himself. Gumbo finally agreed to buy the clothes, saying he would take them. Jin slapped him on the back, excitedly, laughing and praising his good decision. He mockingly called him generous as always, pretending to correct himself mid-sentence. Jin told him to sit on the sofa for a moment, but Gyeombo calmly said he would not buy from Jin. Instead, he would buy from the other salesperson. Jin was taken aback, asking what he meant. Gyeombo explained that it was up to the buyer to decide from whom they wished to purchase. He added that he would be coming to this store often from now on, and if Jin planned to act friendly every time, it would be uncomfortable. He made it clear he would not buy from him, only from that person. He then turned to the junior worker and asked if he could also look at women's clothes. The worker, surprised, guided him politely and asked if he would be wearing them himself. Gyeombo simply questioned back if he would. Jin clenched his wrist tightly, anger building up inside him. Soon after, Jin took pictures of Gyeombo and sent them to Jun, writing that Cheon Fatty had come to their store and was spending like crazy, thinking he must have won the lottery. Jun laughed, calling Jin crazy, and saying that even if he was bored, he should not be sending pictures and posting things like that. At that same time, Shin-A noticed Jun looking at his phone during their anniversary dinner and complained that he was not paying attention. It became clear that it was their first anniversary, and the two were sitting in a luxurious 5-star hotel restaurant. Jun laughed awkwardly and showed her the picture Jin had sent, explaining that it was something ridiculous. He pointed out that it was Cheon Fatty from their school days. Just then, Gyeombo appeared behind them, recognizing Jun and Shin-A. He greeted them both cheerfully, recalling their names with exaggerated familiarity. He remembered Shin-A as the goddess from school, smiling warmly as he spoke. Shin-A smiled back politely. Jun awkwardly said it was quite a coincidence, but Gyeombo revealed it was not coincidental at all. After leaving the department store earlier, he had searched on Starstar for trendy restaurants. There he found a post uploaded by Goddess Shin-A. In other words, he had come here on purpose. Jun watched him carefully, wondering if this fatty had truly won the lottery. If he had bought all that from Jin Il-sok's store, then maybe it was not fake. Shin-A looked at him, surprised at how much he had changed since they last met. Gyumbo casually replied that he did not think he had changed much, then noticed it was their first anniversary and congratulated them warmly. Shin-A smiled shyly, amused by his tone. But Gyumbo leaned closer to Jun and whispered mockingly that Jun had gotten cheap since the last time he saw him. He criticized him for ordering single items on his first anniversary, calling it tacky, and said he should at least have ordered a full-course meal. He revealed he had studied the menu earlier and pointed out that the course came with both steak and lobster, while the single steak order did not include lobster. Jun's anger started to rise. Gyumbo noticed their wine glasses and mocked him again, saying he had ordered wine by the glass instead of a bottle. He claimed he could tell from the smell that it was cheap wine. Enraged, Jun grabbed Gyumbo by the collar and shouted that the loser was acting cocky after a few years, and asked if he wanted to be reminded of the beatings he used to get. Gyumbo's expression turned cold as he warned Jun to keep his hands to himself. He said the clothes were new, bought just today, and asked if Jun could handle the cost if they got stretched. Shin-A, frustrated, stood up and told them both to stop. She scolded Jun, saying she absolutely hated violence. Gyumbo calmly told her to wait for a moment. He then called for the waiter and purchased an expensive vintage wine bottle. Turning to Shin-A, he told her that back in school, when he was being bullied, she had helped him. He said this was his way of repaying her kindness, expressing his gratitude for what she had done back then. Shin-A looked flustered and said it was unnecessary, but Gyumbo refused to accept her refusal. He smiled and said he would not disturb their date any longer, wishing them well as he left. Shin-A thanked him softly. Gyumbo walked away to make the payment. Shin-A, smiling brightly, turned to Jun and said it was amazing. She laughed that they had actually been trying to save on wine, so this had worked out perfectly for them. Jun slammed his hand on the table in anger, shouting that the fatty was treating him like a beggar. He demanded that the waiter charge the wine to his card instead, yelling that he would not drink something disgusting coming from that man. The restaurant staff hesitated and said that the bottle cost 3.5 million won, asking if he was sure. Gyumbo turned back and told Jun not to overdo it. He said he had already seen his financial situation clearly from the table earlier. Then he reminded him of something he had said in the past. The scene shifted to their school days. Jun was seen confiscating Gyumbo's headphones, mocking him, and saying he was acting up. Gyumbo had tried to explain that his sister had bought them as a birthday present. But Jun had told him to live within his means and use wired earphones instead. In the present, Gyumbo calmly told him the same thing, to live within his means, and just mooch wine from Shin-A. He stated that he had bought that wine for her and asked the waiter to put it on his card. Jun clenched his fist tightly, unable to reply. Later, Gyumbo sat down to eat. He took a bite and praised the food, saying it was as expected awesome. He thought that after all, nothing compared to cold pork belly, hotel sushi, steak, or lobster could not beat it. He reflected on how he used to eat so little because he was always short on money, but today, he was determined to eat until he burst. As he enjoyed his food, he looked at his phone and called out to Lado-chan. He paused suddenly, noticing something strange. Lado-chan had a small protrusion on its side. He stared closely, realizing it looked like a wing. He was startled, wondering why wings had suddenly appeared. He could hardly believe it. The more money he withdrew, the more Lado-chan seemed to evolve. Gyumbo reflected on the strange evolution of Lado-chan. Its original form, when not a single penny had been taken out, had been nothing more than an inanimate object. But after withdrawing 65 million won, the creature had grown eyes and begun to move. Now it even had wings. He tried to recall how much money had been withdrawn by the time those wings appeared, remembering that he had counted up to 253 million won. He realized he had been so blinded by money that he hadn't noticed the obvious truth. The more Lado-chan evolved, the more his own life decreased. Yet he brushed the thought aside. It didn't matter, he told himself. He already knew this from the start. Life was lived only once, and he would do everything he wanted before dying. That day, his first desire was to eat cold pork belly until he burst, but the food burned as he cooked, leaving him frustrated. Returning home, Gyumbo stepped on the weighing scale. His weight was no less than that of a hippopotamus. The machine itself looked ready to break from his size. He muttered to himself in disbelief, realizing that his weight had increased so much in just one day. After devouring pork belly like a madman, he had reached a record-breaking weight. He admitted to himself that at this rate, he would die of high cholesterol before anything else. Picking up Lado-chan in his hand, he declared that he couldn't die yet. He convinced himself he needed to manage his health, because there were still countless things he wanted to do. That night, he looked forward to the next day. He planned to visit a seafood buffet that cost 300,000 won per person. He also wanted to try the famous mango bingsu that cost over 40,000 won. It was his first time in life experiencing such freedom. The next morning, the now chubby Gyumbo continued to sleep soundly. When he finally woke up, he panicked, thinking he was late for work. He wondered why his alarm hadn't rung, then remembered that he had quit his job. With Lotto-chan, he now had unlimited money. Smiling, he greeted Lotto-chan, asking it to take care of him again for the day. Gyumbo visited a barbershop, where he got a fresh haircut and facial. Then he went shopping at the mall, buying stylish clothes, branded shoes, socks, and a new purse. He thought about how it had been the first time in years he had enjoyed a weekday without school or work. He recalled how he had thrown his resignation letter at the boss he once feared, quitting without hesitation. He remembered the times he used to panic when missing the subway, and how he would break into a cold sweat over being 10 minutes late. Now, because he had piles of money, the fear of the company no longer existed. He began to understand why rich people carried such confidence in everything they did. Even walking through Cheongdam-dong, a place that once made him feel alienated, now felt natural. The people he used to feel intimidated by no longer scared him. He walked among them with pride and ease. A luxurious car stopped nearby, and a stunning woman stepped out. Her curvy figure left Gyumbo speechless. He was overwhelmed, believing she must be an idol. The sight felt unreal, as though he had front-row access to beauty itself. He wondered what kind of event could be happening for such a person to appear. When she walked into the building ahead, Gyumbo noticed a poster and snapped out of his thoughts. He scolded himself internally, telling himself not to be impure. He reminded himself not to waste his first time, and that pure love was always best. Just then, another woman with blonde hair approached him, smiling softly. Her beauty stunned him. She complimented his style and asked if he had time. Shocked, Gyumbo realized this was the kind of encounter he had only heard about in actual pickup. He recognized the transformation money had brought him. His hairstyle, groomed face, Gucci frames, confident attitude, and expensive fashion had all been shaped by wealth. Because he had money, beautiful women now came to him naturally. Excited, he agreed eagerly, saying he had plenty of time. The woman then lifted a camera in front of him and commented on his look, estimating that his outfit must cost over 10 million won. She asked to know the total amount of his coordinated attire. Gyumbo stuttered, saying he didn't remember since he bought everything without checking prices. The woman admired his casual attitude, calling it the true scent of a rich person. She joked that rich people wore fur in summer, which explained his long sleeves. Gyumbo, wanting to prove his authenticity, mentioned that he still had the receipts as proof his items were not fake. She agreed that having department store receipts was proof of genuine luxury, and offered to calculate the total amount for him. The scene ended there. Later, Gyumbo sat at home, scrolling through YouTube shorts. He found the same woman's video featuring him, where she listed the prices of his outfit in detail. Gucci optical frame, 680,000 won. Gucci jacquard necktie, 340,000 won. Tom Brown cardigan, 2,500,000 won. Louis Vuitton silk shirt, 2,550,000 won. Prada leather clutch, 3,100,000 won. Balenciaga briefs, 320,000 won. Chrome Hearts short denim, 6,980,000 won. Dolce & Gabbana cotton socks, 220,000 won. Miu Miu suede sneakers, 1,530,000 won. The total came to 18,220,000 won. In the video, Gyumbo even made Naruto-style hand signs, looking like a piggy version of the character. He was amazed to see how quickly the video had gone viral within a single day. Soon after, he received a message on Instagram. The sender introduced themselves as a 25-year-old named Cheon-ga, 301, explaining a tragic story. Their parents had divorced due to domestic violence. Their mother had fallen into debt and lost their home, and now she lay hospitalized after a brain hemorrhage. Their father had gone blind from gambling addiction and couldn't even find the bathroom without help. The sender had been scammed in cryptocurrency, becoming a credit defaulter. They begged for help, asking for 50 million won, promising to repay 80 million within the year, and pleading for mercy to save their family. Gyumbo thought about how celebrities often received hundreds of such messages asking to borrow money. He realized that when people had asked for his Star ID earlier, they truly thought he was famous. He checked his inbox and saw many similar messages from strangers. He regretted giving out his lurking account and admitted to himself that this sudden public attention felt overwhelming. He decided he should probably delete the account. Just then, a new message appeared from someone named Princess Rin. As he read her name, his drink caught in his throat. It was the real Princess Rin, the school's representative goddess. From the moment she entered as a freshman, she had been adored by seniors and respected by delinquents. Her beauty and presence had conquered the entire school. Gyumbo couldn't believe that someone like her would message him. They had never even spoken during school days. Still, he decided to reply. He sent her a greeting, mentioning it had been a long time. To his shock, she read it immediately and replied, saying he hadn't changed. The realization that Princess Rin remembered him left him trembling. He felt as though he were living in a scene from a romance drama, where two people who barely knew each other in school reunited after graduation. Just then, his doorbell rang. Thinking it was a delivery, he rushed to the door, still chatting with Rin and eating pig's feet. But when he opened the door, there was no one there, no delivery, no package, nothing. Confused, he stood in silence, not knowing what to make of it. Jin and June had actually come to his house. Gyumbo could not believe they had shown up at his door. Jin barged into the house, explaining that Gyumbo had made a department store membership card to accumulate points. Jin ordered them not to make a scene and told them to go inside because they had a lot to talk about. Then they slammed the door shut. June immediately complained about the mess in the house and asked if Gyumbo was moving soon. Jin remarked that the place smelled like a warehouse. Gyumbo recognized the cowardly bastards and sensed a surprise attack on his home base. Seeing them arrive together, he assumed they were planning revenge for yesterday. June and Jin sneered at the house, mocking it as a parasite's home. They traded insults about the place, comparing it to an old woman's house. Gyumbo glanced at Lado-chan and realized it seemed like an ordinary inanimate object to everyone else except him. He knew this was an emergency and quietly picked Lado-chan up. Holding it close, he whispered for it to wait a moment while he steadied himself. June and Jin approached and reminded him that they had something to talk about. Gyumbo accepted the confrontation with a new resolve. He declared that he was no longer the loser Chun Gyumbo he used to be. He vowed to use money to battle back against whatever they planned. The thought was fierce and steady in him. Come on. To his shock, June and Jin dropped to their knees in front of him and began to bargain. June framed the request as an investment and asked for 50 million won each, 100 million total, promising to pay back 120 million in a year, with 10 million interest each. Jin chimed in agreement. June insisted it was not because they lacked ability. Jin muttered that they had been scammed by stock fraudsters. Jun smacked Jin for the comment and scolded him for speaking out of turn. Gyumbo was stunned to see Yang A-jun and Jin Il-sok kneeling before him. Jun argued that more capital would increase return rates and presented this as an opportunity gifted by fate after their coincidence. He urged Gyumbo to forget the past and get along from now on. Jin quickly agreed to the plan. June explained that the world worked by the haves giving to the have-nots, framing the loan as a natural order. Memories flooded Gyumbo. He recalled the cruel past when Jun and Jin took his money, struck him, and demanded compliance. He remembered being forced to hand over cash for trivial reasons. He had once told them the money was for his sister's birthday present, only to be mocked and told to shut up. They had called him annoying and stubborn for not giving in. June scoffed at those without, saying those who have should not act cocky and that the poor ought to crawl on their own. Gyumbo snapped. He turned their logic back on them and challenged their right to demand charity. Before deciding whether to lend them money, he demanded the right to land one punch each. June whispered to Jin to play it cool and not retaliate too forcefully, warning that Gyumbo's punches were weak. Jin begged Gyumbo not to hit his face because he had to go to work, suggesting that a single hit would settle things. Gyumbo swung, his fist connected with Jin's stomach, and Jin went flying backwards, collapsing to the floor. June watched aghast at the dramatic fall. Gyumbo believed the fainting was an act and thought Jin was pretending to be unconscious to milk sympathy for 50 million. He cursed the bastard who would sell his soul for money and resolved he could not lose either. Unknown to Gyumbo, the hit had landed harder than he intended. Jin was genuinely out cold on the floor. Jun, thinking his own face was sturdy, invited Gyumbo to hit him anywhere. Gyumbo delivered a powerful blow to Jun's nose, and Jun briefly blacked out as his senses flickered. The scene shifted to the hospital. Gyumbo called his sister Eunhwa while chaos swirled around him. Eunhwa reassured him not to worry and told him to do what he needed to do. Her workplace colleagues stopped by and chatted cheerfully, teasing about her reliable, money-making brother. They congratulated her on having such a brother and remarked on the luxurious room she now had. They urged her to get better soon for her brother's sake, noting she couldn't just stay in the hospital at such a pretty age. Eunhwa thanked them politely. Her colleagues then mentioned another patient, Ji-hye, who had also been diagnosed with leukemia and had quit last year because of the disease. They speculated about environmental pollution or stress as possible causes and agreed it was a terrible illness for someone so young. Hearing this, Eunhwa grew despondent and worried silently. After the call with his sister, Gumbo still could not calm down. He thought about Princess Rin asking to meet him and realized he had never been alone with another woman outside of blood relatives. The idea made him suddenly self-conscious and eager to present himself well. Then someone gently poked his cheek from beside him. It was Princess Jurin herself, and she looked stunning and sexy. Princess Rin's unexpected physical contact left Gumbo shocked and breathless. Princess Rin noted that he had not eaten and suggested they eat first. Gumbo panicked for a moment, having blanked out, then recovered and agreed. Princess Yurin held his hand and explained she had a restaurant reservation, inviting him to go. Sweat poured from his brow as he walked beside her, embarrassed and overwhelmed. He admitted to himself that he could not remember the conversation or the route to the restaurant, only that every passerby stared at them. Both men and women watched them as they walked, and Princess Rin's slender skin and warm body touched his sweaty arm, focusing all his nerves on his left elbow. The restaurant Princess Rin had booked offered private rooms for each table. The air conditioning inside the private room was set so cold that it was chilling, yet his body continued to sweat profusely, as if rain poured from him. Princess Jurin placed her hand gently on his cheek and observed that he seemed to be sweating a lot, and asked if he was okay. Gumbo felt his heart nearly stop because Princess Rin had come so close. He blushed, struggled to breathe, and rode a wave of nerves and disbelief as the elegant world of Princess Rin enveloped him. Princess Rin moved closer to Gumbo, their lips almost touching. Gumbo felt her breath against his skin and thought that she was so close that if this continued, their lips would end up touching. Startled, he quickly grabbed her hand and asked if someone had been hitting her. Princess Rin looked surprised, wondering why he suddenly brought up such a thing. Gumbo's gaze dropped to her arm as he pointed out the visible patches on her skin. He noted that the smaller-shaped one was a warm patch and realized those must be from bruises. He noticed both cold and warm patches applied together and understood that she had used them differently based on the bruise condition. Concern filled him as he questioned again who was hurting her and told her to ask for help if she needed it. Princess Rin laughed lightly, dismissing his concern. She said there was no one who would dare to hit her. The bruises were from pole dancing marks caused by friction with the pole. Then she posed elegantly, her figure exuding a confidence and allure enough to melt anyone's heart. She looked more striking than many models or actresses, showing off the results of her effort and discipline. She remarked that her body couldn't have been made without hard work. Gyumbo's thoughts raced as he realized that it was indeed from pole dancing. The idea of Princess Rin doing pole dancing amazed him completely. To him, it was absolutely incredible, really the best. Breaking the moment, Princess Rin mentioned that she was hungry and suggested they order food soon, asking what he wanted to eat. They ordered their first dish, and when it arrived, Gyumbo realized that eating just one of those dishes would never fill anyone's stomach. Still, he thought the restaurant had its benefits since the plates were so clean, the hotel wouldn't need to buy too many dishwashers. Gyumbo explained that the menu they ordered was a course meal costing 230,000 won, yet each portion was barely a bite. Despite being so small, the presentation was like artwork. Every time a dish was brought out, the tableware changed, and he found himself admiring how refined the experience felt. Watching each dish arrive felt like witnessing art. As he observed the details, he suddenly remembered the bibimbap he had eaten a few days ago. In his home, they had a bibimbap day once a week, made by his sister. She would throw all the leftover side dishes into one metal bowl. He recalled how she used to scold him, telling him to stop adding sesame oil because it made the dish greasy. But he would always insist that adding a lot made it more savory. That was the day they all ate with spoons, making use of every bit of leftover food instead of wasting it. They devoured the meal under the pretense of calling it bibimbap. He realized that until now, he had only thought of food as a simple means to fill his stomach, but people with money enjoyed it differently. They experienced food as something beautiful, something to be savored, not just consumed. As he pondered this, he kept glancing at Princess Rin. She noticed his gaze and asked what was wrong. Snapping back, he quickly responded that the food was delicious and good. Again, he thought about how he had only viewed food as a simple necessity, while wealthy people appreciated it as an art form. He wondered internally why there was such a difference. Princess Rin chuckled softly, amused by how he was finally starting to converse with her. She noted that he had been so quiet earlier that she thought she would have to talk alone. Gumbo thought to himself that this was why people with money had no complexes or wrinkles. They were kind, gentle, and considerate. Jurin Princess Rin had been so thoughtful toward him this entire time. Then, his mind flashed back to that earlier moment when Princess Rin had come so close to him, their faces nearly touching. He remembered how his heart had raced when she leaned in to wipe his sweat. He wondered what she had been trying to do back then. Before he could think further, his phone suddenly rang. He picked up the call and reacted in shock. Realizing something, he exclaimed that he had completely forgotten something important. The voice on the other side reminded him that this was the real estate office, calling to confirm his appointment time, which was in just 30 minutes. Panicking, Gumbo apologized and said he had a really important appointment right now. He asked if he could look at the house tomorrow instead. The agent warned that they couldn't guarantee the property would still be available, as many people were coming to see it. Flustered, Gumbo asked what he should do. Princess Rin looked at him with a warm smile, realizing what was happening. She mentioned that it was about real estate and asked if he was planning to look at a house. She told him that if it was because of her, it was fine, and offered to go together. Gumbo hesitated for a moment, caught off guard, as she reassured him again that they could go together. Gumbo and Princess Rin went together to see the house. The estate agent greeted them warmly and began explaining about the property. It was a new construction in a large station area complex with wide unit spacing and beautiful walking paths within the community. The management fees were reasonable, and the facilities were not excessive. Everything needed for daily convenience was nearby, with complete amenities in place. The unit had an extended balcony type with a spacious living room. It was empty and ready for immediate occupancy. The agent added that it was a 30 pyong unit, perfect for newlyweds. Gumbo's face turned red with embarrassment when he heard the word newlyweds. He panicked and blurted that they were just friends and that such misunderstandings were not allowed. The idea of being mistaken for a married couple was too much for him, and he kept repeating in his mind that there was no way. Princess Rin chuckled softly at his flustered reaction, enjoying his discomfort. Trying to clarify, Gumbo explained that his sister would live alone and that the house being for newlyweds was absurd. But his attention quickly shifted to the view as he pointed out that the vibe of the place felt nice and the window seemed to overlook the complex landscaping. The estate agent replied that there was actually an empty unit upstairs that had a direct view of the complex, but someone else had already signed the contract for it. Gumbo asked if they could contact the person who had already signed that contract. The agent hesitated and said that it might be possible if they looked into it. Without hesitation, Gumbo offered to pay triple the deposit and requested that they ask the current buyer if they could cancel the contract. He even promised to cover additional moving costs. The estate agent was taken aback by the sudden offer, surprised at how serious he was. Before things escalated further, Princess Rin stopped him and told him to wait. She reasoned that with that much money, he could get more space or even move to an apartment in a better location, wondering why he would go to such lengths for this one. But Gumbo insisted that it was his sister's wish to live in this particular apartment. He said that if triple the deposit wasn't enough, they could ask how much the person wanted, and he would match that amount no matter what. The scene then shifted to the past, showing a younger Gumbo with his big sister, Manhwa. She had just won a rice cooker in a lottery and was overjoyed, shouting that she had totally hit the jackpot. The event had been hosted by a luxury boutique, giving away almost new appliances like a rice cooker and vacuum cleaner for free. Yunhua laughed and remarked that rich people living in nice apartments really lived in a different class. Noticing something, she suddenly asked Gumbo about the patches on his arm and if he was hurt. Flustered, Gumbo quickly denied it, saying he had just exercised hard during PE class and got muscle pain. In his mind, he thought that he absolutely couldn't tell his sister that he had been beaten by two bullies who also took his money. Yunhua then told him to distinguish between warm and cold patches when applying them and asked where exactly it hurt and how. Gumbo nervously said he knew already and apologized, feeling guilty for being a brother who couldn't even buy her a birthday present. Yunhua smiled and told him it was fine and that she was sorry for not giving him enough allowance. Hearing that, Gumbo promised that later, when he made a lot of money, he would buy her anything she wanted. She laughed and pointed to a tall building in the distance, saying that if he really made lots of money, he should buy her that. Gumbo was shocked, thinking that no matter how much he earned, it would be impossible for him. Manhwa laughed again, saying it was just a joke. She added that their current house had a wall blocking the window, but if she could ever live in a home overlooking a beautiful complex landscape, she would have no other wishes. Returning to the present, Gumbo was now standing in that very place, buying the flat on the same floor for his sister. He signed the agreement while the staff reminded him that he must bring his seal when paying the balance next week. He confirmed and said that he had already transferred the deposit. That evening, Gyumbo explained that the previous contractor had gladly accepted the triple deposit, and the house overlooking the landscaping became his sister's. He had transferred the deposit that same day and also signed a contract for his own residence. It was the country's tallest residential tower, located on the 54th floor, 61 pyong wide, with a full Han River view and completely furnished. The lease was for a short-term period of 3 months with zero security deposit. Princess Rin whispered to him, concerned about the monthly rent. She pointed out that the rent was almost equal to an average working person's annual salary and suggested that it would be better to pay a larger deposit to reduce the monthly rent. Gyumbo smiled awkwardly and thought to himself that he couldn't say anything at her words. Later, standing by the window of his luxurious room, Gyumbo spoke softly to himself. He thought about how he could never tell her the truth, that his life decreased as he spent money, and she would never believe such a thing anyway. Now that he had secured his sister's house, he felt a strange calm. He gently patted Lado-chan's head and said that after filling the closet with enough money for hospital bills and living expenses, he would accept death without regrets. He quietly asked Lado-chan to take care of him until then. Just then, his doorbell rang. He wondered who it could be, thinking he hadn't ordered any delivery, and that maybe it was someone from the management office. But when he checked the door camera, he froze in shock. Standing outside his door was Princess Jurin-chan. His eyes widened as he wondered how she had found her way there. Princess Jurin-chan entered the room as Gyumbo invited her inside. She looked calm, but carried a strange determination in her expression. Without hesitation, she told him that she wanted to live with him. Gyumbo froze in shock, his mind spinning. He blurted out in disbelief, wondering why she would want to live with him, for what reason, and how such a thing could even happen. Princess Jurin chuckled softly, her tone casual yet slightly embarrassed. She explained that she had been evicted and lost her entire deposit because she had fallen behind on rent. She said she was kicked out of her studio apartment, completely broke. Gyumbo stared at her, completely shocked. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. In his mind, he thought about how Princess Chan came from a rich background. She always looked glamorous, constantly appearing on social media with stars, traveling abroad, enjoying hotel staycations, and eating at luxurious omakase restaurants without any worries about money. He couldn't understand how someone like her could lose her home. But Princess Jurin calmly clarified everything. She said that none of those things were actually funded by her own money. All of them were sponsorships. Even if someone didn't have as many followers as major influencers, if their looks and popularity were enough, expensive sponsorships could come in. But those sponsorships weren't actual money, they were just promotional deals, an illusion of wealth without any substance. She explained that it was all show, and no real cash flow. It was no different from having everything on the surface, but nothing in reality. As she spoke, Princess Jurin gently placed her hand on Gumbo's shoulder. The sudden closeness made him stiffen. His mind went wild as he struggled to control himself. The thought of living together with Princess Chan flashed in his mind like a dream. He tried to calm down, telling himself to think logically, but his imagination betrayed him. He thought that cohabitation between an ordinary guy and a beautiful woman was a classic trope in old-school manga. The idea of living with a beauty so close to perfection felt like something straight out of fiction. Then he laughed nervously in his thoughts, realizing that it wasn't common at all, definitely not in real life. Hearing her say she wanted to stay made him secretly happy, almost too happy to handle. Still, he tried to remain composed and asked her about her clothes and belongings. He wondered why she hadn't brought anything with her. Princess Jurin sighed and said that it was because she had been kicked out suddenly. While she was away for a short while, her landlord had changed the door lock password. She couldn't even retrieve her things. Without a change of clothes, she had nowhere else to go. That's why she had come to him and asked if she could borrow something to wear. Gyumbo hurriedly gave her one of his favorite shirts, the one with a picture of his beloved character, Hatsune Miku-chan. When Princess Jurin wore it, the oversized t-shirt draped loosely over her small frame, making her look irresistibly cute. Seeing her like that, Gyumbo almost lost his composure. His heart started pounding, and his face turned bright red. In his head, he screamed that it was a fatal cuteness overload. He couldn't believe that his favorite Miko-chan didn't even catch his eye anymore. For the first time, he questioned whether 2D could truly surpass 3D after all. Princess Jurin looked at him and softly said that she was hungry. She suggested making something in the kitchen and asked him to join her. Gyumbo followed, still dazed by everything happening. Watching her move around comfortably in his home while cooking made him feel something new. As she began preparing food, Gyumbo stood nearby, mesmerized. He thought about how unbelievable it was that Princess Chan was cooking in comfortable clothes inside his house, the two of them alone together. The scene before him felt like a dream. It was exactly how he imagined newlywed life to be: peaceful, warm, and surreal. He couldn't help but think that it was the life he had always dreamed of. After a few minutes, Jurin called out to him, saying that the food was ready. Her voice snapped him out of his thoughts. She told him to sit down quickly. He hurried to the dining table, replying enthusiastically. When they sat down, she asked if ramen was okay. She explained that there weren't many ingredients left in the fridge. Gyumbo apologized, admitting that he mostly ordered delivery food instead of cooking. He then looked at the bowl she had placed before him. The noodles were completely drowned in soup. His mind screamed in confusion. She had called this ramen, but it looked like the noodles were sinking. The brand he usually bought was Grandma brand Han River Ramen, and this looked nothing like it. Princess Jurin looked a little embarrassed and admitted that she had added too much water. She said she wasn't good at adjusting water levels for ramen, and sighed that she might develop thalassophobia at this rate. Hearing her softly blame herself made Gyumbo panic. He thought to himself that she was blaming herself unnecessarily and immediately tried to fix the situation. He quickly told her that eating food that was too salty was bad for health and that this ramen was actually perfect for a late-night snack. He thanked her for the meal, saying he would eat well. As he said that, he noticed her smiling warmly at his words. That smile made him feel a strange flutter inside his chest. In his mind, Gyumbo thought quietly to himself. He realized that later, when his time came to die, he would probably look back at this moment. He would think about how precious it was, so precious that it would make dying feel too soon. Princess Jurin then asked if the ramen was too bland, and if she should add more soup base. He immediately told her that it was perfect just the way it was. Later that night, when everything quieted down, Gyumbo whispered softly to Lado-chan, his small companion. He said he had been worried about Lado-chan feeling stuffy inside the wardrobe, but realized that maybe it actually felt more comfortable there. He thought about how animals liked dark hiding places where they could conceal themselves and feel safe. As his thoughts wandered, he glanced toward the living room and wondered if Princess Chan had already fallen asleep. Gyumbo sat in front of the TV, his eyes lighting up the moment he saw Attack on Titan playing on the screen. Excitement filled him, as he exclaimed in disbelief that Attack on Titan was being shown for promotion. Princess Jurin chuckled softly, telling him that she knew the show well. She mentioned that she had watched it back in the day and had been re-watching it recently. Gyumbo's enthusiasm grew even more, as he eagerly responded that, of course, he knew it. Among true otaku, he thought, liking Attack on Titan was often considered fashion otaku or fake otaku, but he believed that was just a common generalization error committed by people who never tried to understand the history within the work. Princess Jurin let out a small laugh, amused by how serious he sounded, and teased him for taking it so deeply. She smiled and suggested that if he couldn't sleep, they could watch it together, asking him when he first watched Attack on Titan. Gyumbo immediately replied by asking if she meant his first watch-through timeline or the most recent one. Curious, she asked him how many times he had watched it in total. The two of them then began watching Attack on Titan together. As the episode progressed and the famous scene of Captain Levi appeared, Gyumbo's excitement overflowed. He burst out with joy, recognizing the exact moment when Captain Levi first uttered that legendary line. It was, to him, one of the most epic moments that always ranked in Attack on Titan's top 3 famous scenes. But amidst his excitement, he suddenly noticed that Princess Jurin had fallen asleep on his shoulder. At first, he thought she was joking. Feeling awkward, he smiled nervously and tried to speak, thinking she might just be pretending. However, when he turned to look at her closely, he realized that she had really fallen asleep. He froze, unsure of what to do next. The night passed quietly, and the next morning arrived. Princess Jurin woke up to find herself lying in bed. Still half asleep, she looked around and called out to Gyumbo, asking if he was awake. He replied softly that he was. She greeted him with a sleepy smile, wishing him good morning, and mentioned that she had fallen asleep without realizing it. Then she asked if he had slept well. Gyumbo smiled faintly and answered that he had, though dark circles under his eyes told a different story. In truth, he hadn't slept a wink. When she asked him where he was going, he told her he had to go out to pay the balance for his sister's house. She nodded, realizing that it was that day. He quickly grabbed his things and said he would see her later, muttering about how congested Gangnam usually was during commute hours. Just as he was about to leave, Princess Jurin stopped him for a moment and asked if she could use his computer. Gyumbo, surprised, said sure and told her there was a laptop on the desk in the small room. After that, They both exchanged goodbyes as he headed out for the day. But when night came, everything changed. Gyumbo returned home only to be struck with shock the moment he stepped inside. Princess Jurin was nowhere to be found. The money he had kept in the closet was gone. Even Lado-chan had disappeared. His heart pounded in disbelief as he looked around the empty room, shouting in panic, calling out for Lado-chan, his voice echoing through the silence. A few hours later, the scene shifted to Gyumbo, sitting across a wooden desk, signing the final set of papers for the new house. His hands moved steadily as he completed each signature, and after the last one, he leaned back with visible relief. The estate agent confirmed that all the documents were done and told him that now, only the balance payment remained to be deposited. Hearing that, Gyumbo's face lit up with happiness. He smiled with genuine excitement, thinking to himself that once he transferred this money, they would finally have their own home. Memories flooded his mind as he remembered the years after their parents passed away, the endless struggle of moving from one tiny room to another, never settling, never truly belonging anywhere. He recalled the moment a few years ago when they managed to move into the small two-room place they currently lived in. The window in that house was large, letting sunlight pour into the room. His sister had told him that it would be his room, but at the time, he didn't agree with her. For the first time, they had separate spaces, and it had felt like a new beginning. He remembered how both of them had kept insisting that the other should take the better room. In the end, he had locked himself inside one, refusing to give in, while she had tried to open the door, calling him out for being stubborn. He had called her dominating, and their playful argument had turned into a fight. The memory made him chuckle faintly to himself as he signed the final page. Now, things were different. The new house had 3 rooms and even 2 bathrooms. It wasn't just his sister's newlywed home anymore. It was a space big enough for both of them, with room to grow, even if someday his sister had a child. For the first time, they wouldn't have to squeeze their lives into a small space. He thought quietly that even after he was gone, he hoped his sister would live happily. With that thought, he completed the transfer and sent the remaining balance. Excitement filled his voice as he confirmed that the money had been sent. The estate agent checked and confirmed the payment's arrival, assuring him that the lawyer would now handle the registration process. All the necessary documents would be given to the lawyer to finalize everything. But as the relief began to settle in, Gyumbo's phone rang. It was an unexpected call from his sister's hospital. Confused, he frowned, wondering why the hospital would be calling. A sense of unease crept over him as he immediately rushed there. When he arrived, his world turned upside down. His sister's condition had worsened drastically. Panic filled his chest as he ran to her side, unable to understand what had happened. She had been fine until yesterday, but now, she looked pale and weak. He turned to the doctor, desperate for answers. The doctor explained that he had probably seen the blood test results on the app that morning. The patient's neutrophil count had dropped significantly, and she had developed a fever. They were administering additional medication, but it was a non-covered drug, which required guardian consent before use. Hearing this, Gyumbo's thoughts spiraled. The doctor's words echoed in his mind. Her neutrophil count had decreased. He repeated it internally, realizing the weight of it. Then, a chilling memory resurfaced. The mysterious man who had once spoken to him about the lotto chance. The man's warning came back vividly in his mind, the words crystal clear. He had said that the amount of money Mr. Gyumbo took from the wallet beast would cause something related to him to decrease. As those words replayed, Gyumbo's eyes widened in horror. Looking at his sister lying weak on the hospital bed, trembling and pale, the truth hit him like a knife. Something related to him, his only blood relative, his sister, that was what it meant. He realized with horror that all this time, every time he had taken money, he had unknowingly been consuming his sister's life. The connection between his fortune and her suffering became painfully clear. Standing there in disbelief, Gyumbo's body trembled. His sister's condition had become critical, her health deteriorating fast. He could no longer hold back the grief tearing through him. Tears streamed down his face as he broke down completely, crying uncontrollably beside her bed, consumed by guilt, fear, and the unbearable truth of what he had done. Then, in a rush of desperation, Gyumbo began running toward his new home. The sky darkened, and heavy rain poured down, soaking him completely as he sprinted through the streets. His breath grew uneven, his shoes splashing through puddles, pushing past people on the road, bumping into them in his frantic hurry. His thoughts repeated over and over in his mind, it was okay. Everything would still be okay. His chest heaved, and the words echoed in his head like a mantra. It's still okay. If he just put the money he took out back into Lotto-chan, then surely everything would be reversed. His sister would get better too. Hope surged through his exhausted body, pushing him to run faster. When he reached home, his clothes and shoes were completely drenched. Dripping wet, he rushed straight inside toward Lado-chan's locker, but as he opened it, his heart dropped. All the money and Lado-chan were gone. Terror filled his face. His mind spiraled as he thought that maybe Princess Rin had stolen it, or perhaps it was one of the cases the mysterious man had once mentioned. He remembered those words clearly. There were 3 cases where one could no longer take money from the wallet beast. The first was when something related to Mr. Cheon Gumbo kept decreasing and eventually disappeared completely. Sweat ran down his temples despite the cold rain. The realization struck him like lightning. His sister's life had decreased so much that Lado-chan itself had vanished. Horror filled his chest. Tears welled in his eyes as he screamed in agony, crying out Lado-chan's name. He shouted desperately into the empty house, begging, unable to accept it. He couldn't let his sister die like this. He broke down completely, pleading through sobs, begging anyone who could hear him. He didn't need any money anymore. He didn't care if he became a penniless beggar. He just wanted his sister to live. He pleaded with Lado-chan to take the money back and make things go back to normal. Then suddenly, a faint beep-beep sound echoed in the room. He turned toward the corner and saw Lado-chan there. Relief washed over him as he ran toward it. Lado-chan was safe, but it looked angry, glaring with glowing eyes. Gumbo's voice trembled with joy as he thanked the heavens that Lado-chan hadn't disappeared. But as he looked closely, he noticed its fur looked different. It had changed again. It had evolved in the meantime. It looked cuter than ever, but this wasn't the time to admire it. He wiped the water from his face and refocused. His sister was in critical condition, and this was urgent. He gently picked Lado-chan up in his hands and quickly began feeding it all the money he had taken earlier. Lado-chan started eating, its body pulsing faintly as the notes disappeared into its mouth. Relief filled Gyumbo's face as he watched. It was working. Lado-chan was eating well. He thought about the money he had withdrawn to pay for his sister's house. Thankfully, that amount was still with him. The money in the closet might have been stolen by Princess Rin, but that didn't matter right now. If Lado-chan could just eat all this money, his sister's condition would definitely improve. His heart raced with desperate hope as he urged Lado-chan to hang in there, to restore his sister's health. But soon, Lado-chan's small body swelled, its belly filling up completely. It had eaten too much. Gyumbo's eyes widened in horror as Lado-chan's mouth suddenly opened wide, and all the money burst back out, scattering wet bills across the floor. He screamed, crying, shaking his head in disbelief. He begged Lado-chan not to spit it out. Tears ran down his face as he fell to his knees, pleading over and over, begging it to save his sister. The next morning, exhausted and pale, Gombo went to the hospital to hear about his sister's condition. The doctor told him she was doing slightly better than before. His eyes widened, filled with shock and joy. His voice trembled with emotion as he realized it was true. The doctor explained that her neutrophil count had stabilized a lot, and that they could proceed with the next round of chemotherapy as scheduled. Overwhelmed, Gyumbo began to cry with relief. Tears streamed down his cheeks as he thanked the doctor again and again, saying how he had truly thought his sister was going to die because of him. The guilt in his heart broke apart as he spoke, unable to contain his emotions. The doctor placed a hand on his shoulder and said that chemotherapy wasn't a sprint but a marathon. During treatment, there would be times when the neutrophil count dropped, and if he felt happy or sad with every rise and fall, it would be too hard on his heart. His sister was enduring the pain well and needed him to be her strength. Gyumbo wiped his tears and smiled, promising that he would be strong. As he left the doctor's office, he entered the lift, but it was crowded. A young girl, a small cancer patient, stood there with her mother, trying to get inside. The mother sighed in frustration as the doors kept closing before they could fit. She said it was crowded again and suggested waiting for the next lift. The little girl, named Hatsuna, said it was fine, worried more about her mother's tired legs than her own. Seeing them struggle, Gumbo quietly stepped out of the lift and gestured for them to take his place. The mother thanked him sincerely, and they entered. Gumbo stood outside, watching the doors close before he began walking toward the stairs, climbing with quiet determination despite his exhaustion. As he climbed, he thought back to when Lado-chan had spat the money back out. In that moment, it had felt like despair itself. He had believed he had killed his sister with his own hands and had wanted to die, but now, thank goodness, what decreased when he took money from the wallet beast wasn't his sister's life. That meant she was safe, but the thought haunted him. If not her, then what was really decreasing? He quickly brushed the thought away. It didn't matter. As long as it wasn't his sister, nothing else mattered. It was his choice, and he had made it for her. He told himself to forget everything else and to think only about saving her. When he entered his sister Eunhwa's hospital room, he saw her standing by the window, sunlight filtering softly through the curtains. She turned toward him with a bright smile, her face pale but warm. She noticed the sweat on his face and asked if he was feeling weak. Seeing her worrying about him even now made his chest tighten with emotion. In that moment, he made a promise once more. Everything his sister wanted to do, he would make it all come true. He told himself again and again that her happiness was all that mattered. He sat beside her, speaking gently, asking if there was anything she wished for or wanted to do. He would make it all happen for her. Later, as his sister rested, Gyumbo sat down with his laptop, his mind shifting toward one more unresolved matter. His eyes darkened as he began searching. There was still something else he had to deal with. Princess Rin. His determination hardened as he whispered in his thoughts for her to wait. The scene shifted into the quiet atmosphere of the hospital, where Gyumbo walked beside his older sister Eunhwa with a worried expression, and he told his sister that he wanted to know if she had any wishes or things she wanted to do, because he promised he would make it all happen for her. Eunhwa listened softly and admitted that there was indeed one thing she wanted to do. The two of them then continued their conversation while slowly walking through the hospital garden, where Eunhwa revealed the matter of the industrial accident, leaving Gyumbo completely shocked as he repeated the word industrial accident in disbelief while trying to understand why his sister's illness was being compared to such a thing. Eunhwa explained that a few days ago, her work colleagues had visited her at the hospital, and after they had left, the general manager had arrived. The narration transitioned back into that moment in time as Eunhwa sat with the general manager, who handed her a set of documents and explained that, according to internal regulations, the company could not give sick leave indefinitely to just Eunhwa, and even now, her absence meant other colleagues were carrying the burden of extra work. The manager continued by adding that he believed it would be better for her to focus on treatment while colleagues reduced their workload, and so he suggested processing everything as a resignation. He assured her that he would take responsibility for severance and the remaining salary branch pay and would process it quickly. Eunhwa grew nervous and asked for time to think before signing anything, while the manager smirked as he smoked his cigarette and told her to take her time thinking about it today, adding that she could contact him tomorrow and he would come to pick up her resignation letter. Eunhwa tried to clarify that the issue might take a while to consider because she wondered if her illness might actually be an industrial accident. The manager slammed his hand on the table and shouted the phrase, "industrial accident," with agitation, before standing up and delivering a long explanation about how, when people become seriously ill, their mental state weakens and they begin blaming themselves, wondering why such things happen. He claimed he understood the desire to find external reasons or causes, but insisted that acting on such personal feelings would be selfish if it caused damage to the company or colleagues. He complained that although the company was doing its best to accommodate her situation, her attitude was disheartening. He repeatedly struck the table again as he reminded her that once sick leave was exhausted, it became unauthorized absence, which would eventually lead to disciplinary action and dismissal, and he pressed her by asking if she was prepared for that. He addressed her formally as Miss Chon Eunhwa and urged her to make a wise judgment. The narration then returned to the present moment as Eunhwa continued explaining everything to Gyumbo, saying that since that day the company had been contacting her daily to ask if she had signed the resignation letter, which she found strange because they could simply fire her for unauthorized absence if they wanted to. She felt it was like they absolutely needed her to sign the resignation letter. Gyumbo reminded her that the doctor had said the cause of leukemia could not be confirmed, and Eunhwa acknowledged that this was true, which was why she felt that while she was still alive, she wanted to try to prove the connection to the industrial accident. The two of them then reached a bench and sat down as Eunhwa mentioned that she had told him about the savings account, where she had been putting money aside for him, explaining that it contained a few million won, and she asked if she could use that money to get industrial accident approval. Gyumbo swallowed nervously and refused firmly, reminding her that the money was something his sister had saved for him. Eunhwa awkwardly smiled at his reaction and said she had no choice then, but Gyumbo declared that, instead, he would uncover that industrial accident with his own money. A realization spread through him as he thought about how protagonists in comics changed when they gained special abilities, and how readers could see the moment they developed a sense of mission. He recalled the classic phrase about great power bringing great responsibility, and how that sense of mission became a protagonist's life goal. He compared it to himself and realized that the reason he had gained the special ability called Lotto-chan was because of this moment. He also remembered his bucket list and thought about trying the mango bingsu that cost over 100,000 won, deciding that this was it. Evening arrived as the scene shifted, and Gyumbo declared to Lotto-chan that they would change the world together, causing Lotto-chan to react with excitement. He then sat in front of his computer and decided to first find a labor attorney specializing in industrial accidents, while thinking that he should also look into law firms because a consultation would tell him what to do first. When he glanced at the screen, he realized he was logged in as Princess Rin and reacted with frustration as he told himself that if someone was going to use someone else's PC, they should at least uncheck auto login. He prepared to log out, but discovered a message addressed to Princess Rin stating that Jihagun had gotten 500 million in cash and was coming now with it. He froze at the mention of 500 million in cash and realized that after receiving the PC login notification, Princess Rin had deleted the chat and logged out. His thoughts raced back to his sister's situation, but another realization struck him when he noticed that Princess Rin had stolen his 500 million won from the closet. He called her Princess Rin in his thoughts and vowed that she should wait for him. The story then moved to another setting where Jin and Jun were drinking together. Jun quietly drank, while Jin became frustrated and demanded that Jun say something, complaining about whether they were just going to give up on Chan Fatty's money. Jun yelled back that he didn't know what Jin expected him to do and reminded him that they had both been beaten, pointing out that if that guy came at them seriously, even if the two of them worked together 2-1, they had felt the overwhelming difference in power. Jin silently agreed, as he admitted internally that once fear was imprinted, it didn't easily disappear. Suddenly, Jin received a text from Gyumbo, and he told Jun that Jun Fatty had messaged them and was telling them to come to his house immediately. Jin complained that Gyumbo acted like he was their boss just because they let him hit them once, but he also noted that Gyumbo had said he would give them money. They both agreed to go, and when they arrived at Gyumbo's house, they were shocked by its luxury. Jin stared and asked if this enormous place was really Chan Gyumbo's house, noting that the monthly rent alone was at least 20 million. Jun added that he thought some idol had said they lived there. Gyumbo ignored their reactions and told them to stop looking around the house and get to the point. Offended, the two thought to themselves that Gyumbo was acting cocky just because he had some money. Gyumbo explained that someone had stolen his money, and Jin burst into laughter as he teased him for being robbed by a woman, mocking him for still getting robbed and laughing even harder because it was a woman. Jun smacked him verbally by telling him to read the room, and when they noticed Gyumbo's growing anger, Jin quickly panicked and insisted that he wasn't laughing at him and that he was worried. He begged Gyumbo to unclench his fist. Jun covered Jin's mouth and clarified the situation, saying that Gyumbo simply needed them to get back the money that woman had stolen. Gyumbo confirmed this and said he would give them 20% of the money recovered. Jun reacted with excitement, calling 20% their specialty and promising they would handle it without worries. In his thoughts, Jun celebrated the jackpot, calculating that even if they recovered just 10 million won, they would get 2 million for themselves. Jin claimed that this was what friends were for, helping each other in hard times, while Jun added that this was what loyalty looked like. Gyumbo rejected the idea of friendship or loyalty and reminded them that they weren't that kind of relationship. Jin laughed and called him sensitive, while Jun told him that they could sort out relationship matters later, and asked how much they needed to recover. Gyumbo stated the number clearly, 500 million. The moment they heard it, Jin and Jun collapsed to the floor in shock and immediately declared that Gumbo was not their friend. They called him boss instead and pledged themselves completely, begging him to give them the coordinates so they could leave right away. Jin declared he would devote his loyalty as well. Gyumbo adjusted his glasses and thought with calm satisfaction that everything was now all clear. Jun slammed his hand down hard on the table in total shock. He was completely stunned as he realized it was Gong Rin, the same woman who had stolen the money. In his mind, she was the true-to-form princess he knew. He reacted dramatically, almost like he had just spotted a celebrity in a disguise movie scene, and the shock of it all hit him again when he wondered if anyone had really been in contact with Princess Rin. Meanwhile, Gumbo sat there casually eating his noodles, completely unbothered, as if all this chaos was normal lunchtime conversation. He calmly made it clear that there had been no earlier contact, he had only gotten a call this time. Jun, now even more confused, tried to piece it together and wondered if Princess Rin had actually contacted the boss first. Gumbo then showed him the chat messages with Rin, as if unveiling secret evidence. He explained that she had sent him a direct message and that she had somehow come across his profile through an algorithm and decided to contact him herself. Seeing this, Jun stared at the screen in shock and admiration, thinking how unreal it was and how insanely jealous he felt in that moment, like someone who just lost a lottery to his best friend. Jin, however, shifted the focus back to business and brought up the part about the money being in the closet. Gyumbo confirmed that the money really was placed there. Jin then wondered whether Princess Rin was actually in the house right now. Gyumbo clarified that he had only stayed overnight. Instantly, both Jun and Jin drifted into deep, dramatic imagination mode. In their minds, they pictured Gyumbo and Princess Rin spending the entire night in the same house, and the thought absolutely crushed their souls. They felt completely defeated, as if they had just lost an epic romantic battle without even participating in it. They grabbed their own hair in frustration and sank into depression, mentally repeating that they could never beat that kid. Suddenly, Jin had a realization and remembered that Princess Rin used to come to their store with her boyfriend not long ago. Jun froze and asked in disbelief whether Rin actually had a boyfriend. Jin confirmed it and mentioned that every time she visited the store, she always bought things for him. Jun processed this with visible annoyance and concluded that she truly loved her boyfriend a lot. In his frustration, he started imagining that Rin had skillfully acted nice to Gyumbo, taken a lot of money from him, and then given it all straight to her boyfriend like a dramatic soap opera twist. Anger bubbled up inside Jun as he compared it to a snake-like act, thinking that not only had Gyumbo been fooled emotionally, but he had essentially lost 500 million won in the process. Jin, being the more practical one, declared that if the money was ever found, it should absolutely be reported to the police. Gyumbo, smirking slightly like he was enjoying the chaos, asked again if Rin really had come to Jin's store with her boyfriend. Jin confirmed it clearly. Instead of getting upset, Gyumbo found the whole situation awesome, as if his life had suddenly become an interesting drama series. From there, the scene smoothly shifted into Rin's painful past. She explained that when she was little, she received no help from anyone. Whenever her mother was not at home, it was the perfect time for her father to beat her. A horrifying flashback appeared, showing her drunk father brutally abusing her while screaming that she was even worse than the others, that she looked like GM, and that her existence was unlucky. He insulted her intelligence, called her useless, told her to sleep forever, and even ordered her to get out and die. It was cruelty wrapped in alcohol and rage. She then revealed that even when her mother was home, there was no safety. Instead, her father would beat her mother. Another disturbing memory played, showing him drunk and furious, shouting that going to work was terrible and cruelly comparing her mother to another beautiful woman. He mocked her appearance and threatened to kill both her and the child, saying they should go to the afterlife together. He ranted nonsensically about men and then screamed profanities at her. Her mother cried out desperately for help. On the other side, Rin trembled in fear, hiding in a corner and crying silently, too scared to move. She explained in her mind that she could never ask that kind of mother for help, because her mother herself was trapped and powerless. One day, she felt that if things continued like this, she would truly die. In a desperate act of courage and survival, she hid in the bathroom and called the police. Her father tried to force the door open, but she resisted. Eventually, she heard the police entering the house. She thought that finally, after so much suffering, her father was going to get caught. However, outside the bathroom, her father calmly lied to the police officer, saying that he had 2 naughty children. She heard laughter, that cruel, unreal laughter. After some time passed, the same police officer spoke to her through the door, asking if she was a princess, and telling her that she should listen to her father carefully. He even joked that if she didn't listen again, the police would scold her next time. The police then casually told her father not to scare the child too much, adding that while home education was important, it should be moderate. Her father responded with a smiling face, saying that he would pay more attention in the future. But hidden behind that smile was a true beast, a predator in human skin. Then, the day the police left became another turning point. Rin realized that she had done something wrong in her father's eyes. She begged him in her mind that she would not do it again, and silently asked to be saved. Since the day she was born, that became the day she was hit the most. Her father beat her violently with his belt. Rin further explained that when her father became tired of hitting her, he would always send her to the nearby supermarket to buy alcohol for him. At that time, she was only 9 years old. The following year arrived, but the shame she felt remained. She was ashamed of how she looked. So, before going to the supermarket, she carefully combed her hair, wiped her face, and shook out her clothes. She tried to make herself look like a child who had never been hit. Somehow, she managed not to get caught by the supermarket lady, which, in a sad and bitterly funny way, felt like a small, secret mission success. One day, she finally started avoiding her father the entire day. She stayed outside the house instead of going back inside. Strange, broken thoughts passed through her mind. The hours stretched on until her father finally fell asleep. During that time, when she stayed at the local playground every day at the same hour, She noticed a boy who always passed by the playground. He always looked happy. He was always smiling as he walked by. After some time, she noticed that the boy always walked back with his older sister. He carried snacks like bunjo pang, hodok, and kupbap. He laughed happily while sharing the food with his older sister. Unlike her, he looked truly happy. Then the scene shifted to a moment in the park. Rin was sitting alone in the rain. She felt cold. Her thoughts drifted to what time her father would go to bed that night. She hoped it would be early. She wished that if he fell asleep quickly, it would be better. Suddenly, her father found her. He was smoking, and the way he looked at her was terrifying. He grabbed her by the hair and dragged her with him while shouting that the girl was stuck there. He mocked her cruelly and showed twisted pride in humiliating her. He accused her of being out all day and blamed her for him having to come out in the rain to buy macchioli. In that moment, Rin realized something. Whenever it rained, her father always went to buy makgeolli from the bar near the playground. She cursed herself for forgetting something so obvious. She blamed her own mind and called herself stupid for it. She felt that if she had been smarter, maybe things would not have been this way. She stood somewhere in the middle of her broken thoughts. She imagined that if she had done well, maybe her family could have been like that smiling child. She wondered if that boy had been doing well in life. She truly did not know. She remembered that she had never cried while being beaten by her father before. Yet on this day, for some unknown reason, tears finally fell from her eyes. Her father, enraged, grabbed her hair again and screamed at her for crying. He demanded to know what someone else had done right to deserve happiness while she suffered. He told her to stop crying so pitifully at once. As he raised an umbrella to hit her, the same boy she had been seeing every day suddenly stepped in. With all his strength, the boy struck her father with the umbrella instead. Her father groaned in pain and swore in anger. He shouted, full of fury and disbelief, at the boy. The boy stood firm and told him to stop. He did not understand why adults hit children in the first place. In Rin's mind, this became a powerful moment. It was the first time in her life that someone had helped her while she was going through all of this. That child became the very first person to ever protect her. The scene then slowly shifted back to the present. Rin's clothes were torn. Her condition made it obvious that she had been beaten badly once again. Her hands and feet were tied to a metal rod. She slowly opened her eyes and realized that she had just been trapped inside a long, traumatic dream of her past. Pain shot through her body. Everything burned and hurt. She felt extreme thirst. She felt unbearable hunger. She knew she had to get out. She tried to gather the last strength left in her body. Her thoughts became tangled. Part of her felt like giving up. Part of her wondered if she would die like this. She did not care much about dying, but she felt deep worry for her mother, who would be left alone. She wished that her mother would not be too sad. She even believed that rather than suffering her entire life, dying might be easier. Just then, Gumbo arrived. The moment Rin saw Gumbo, she burst into heavy tears. Deep inside, another feeling finally surfaced. In truth, she did not want to die. She wanted to live. Even through her broken state, one clear thought rose from her heart. She wanted help.